The world is once again turning its attention to a region that has, for centuries, been a crossroads of cultures, conflicts, and shifting alliances. Today, the focus is on a critical stretch of land that lies between Poland and Ukraine, a border that has become the center of mounting international tension. This border, stretching for hundreds of kilometers, is more than just a line on a map. It represents a fault line between East and West, between NATO and Russia, and between the hopes for peace and the fears of renewed conflict. In recent weeks, this area has seen a dramatic increase in military activity, drawing the eyes of the world to its quiet towns and rolling countryside. In response to escalating tensions, thousands of U.S. soldiers have been rapidly deployed to the region. Their arrival is not just a show of force, but a clear signal to both allies and adversaries that the United States and its NATO partners are committed to defending the stability of Eastern Europe. This deployment has raised global concerns, as it marks one of the largest military buildups in the area since the end of the Cold War. The situation unfolding here is far from a local dispute. It has the potential to impact international peace and security, drawing in countries from across the globe. The United Nations has called emergency meetings, and diplomats are working around the clock to prevent the crisis from spiraling out of control. This latest deployment follows years of simmering tension in Eastern Europe. The region has a long and troubled history of military standoffs, shifting borders, and unresolved disputes. Memories of past conflicts, some recent, some decades old, still linger in the minds of those who live here, fueling anxiety and uncertainty about what the future may hold. From Moscow's perspective, the buildup of Western troops so close to its borders is seen as a direct provocation. Russian officials have condemned the deployment, warning that it could destabilize the region and lead to unintended consequences. In response, Russia has placed its own forces on heightened alert, increasing patrols and conducting military exercises near the border. The presence of thousands of foreign troops has put Russia's military on high alert. Surveillance and intelligence operations have intensified, with both sides closely monitoring each other's movements. The risk of miscalculation or accidental escalation is higher than it has been in years. Across the region, ordinary people are watching events unfold with a mix of fear and hope. Many remember the hardships of previous conflicts and are desperate to avoid a repeat. As news spreads rapidly through television, social media, and word of mouth, communities on both sides of the border are bracing for what may come next. To truly understand the gravity of the current situation, it's essential to look back at the complex history of Eastern Europe. This region has been shaped by centuries of wars, shifting alliances, and competing empires. The legacies of these past struggles continue to influence the decisions of leaders and the fears of ordinary citizens today. The next few weeks will be critical. Diplomats, soldiers, and civilians alike are holding their breath, hoping that cooler heads will prevail. Whether this standoff leads to a peaceful resolution or spirals into open conflict will depend on the choices made in the days ahead. The world is watching, and the stakes could not be higher. Along the tense and heavily monitored Poland-Ukraine border, a formidable presence stands watch. These are not just any troops. They are some of the most highly trained and respected soldiers in the world, representing the United States military at its finest. Their mission is clear, but the stakes are high, and the atmosphere is charged with uncertainty and anticipation. These soldiers hail from the legendary 82nd Airborne Division, an elite unit renowned for its rapid deployment capabilities and combat readiness. Known as the All-American Division, these paratroopers are often the first to arrive in crisis zones, prepared to respond to any threat at a moment's notice. Their presence here is a powerful signal to both allies and adversaries alike. The deployment of the 82nd Airborne is not just a routine maneuver. It represents a significant and deliberate commitment by the United States to uphold security and stability in Eastern Europe. Each soldier, standing in formation with the American flag on their shoulder, embodies the resolve and determination of the U.S. to support its partners and defend shared values. Officially, these troops are stationed here to reinforce NATO's eastern flank, strengthening the alliance's collective defense posture. Their presence reassures NATO allies and sends a clear message of unity and deterrence to any potential aggressors. Equipped with state-of-the-art weaponry, advanced body armor, and the latest technology, these soldiers are trained for high-intensity combat and complex operations. Rigorous training exercises in the open terrain ensure they are prepared for any scenario, from peacekeeping to full-scale conflict. The arrival of these forces marks a strategic shift. altering the military balance in the region. The expansion of bases and the movement of convoys underscore the seriousness of the situation and the readiness of the U.S. military to respond to evolving threats. Life on the border is demanding. Soldiers face harsh weather, long hours, and the constant pressure of operating in a high-stakes environment. Setting up camp and maintaining vigilance under such conditions requires resilience, discipline, and unwavering focus. These men and women are more than just warriors, they are ambassadors of U.S. foreign policy. Their mission is to prevent conflict through strength and readiness, but they stand prepared to defend peace and freedom if called upon. Their presence is a testament to America's commitment to its allies and its willingness to stand firm in the face of uncertainty. Today's tensions between the United States and Russia are not simply the result of recent events or isolated incidents. Instead, they are deeply rooted in a long and complex history that stretches back decades, even centuries. The rivalry between these two global powers was most pronounced during the Cold War, a period marked by intense ideological, political, and military competition. Even after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the legacy of suspicion and competition has continued to shape their interactions. In the years following the end of the Cold War, one of the most significant and controversial developments was the expansion of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Originally formed as a defensive alliance against Soviet aggression, NATO began to welcome new members from Eastern Europe, countries that were once part of the Soviet sphere of influence. This expansion has been a major point of contention between the West and Russia, with each new country joining NATO seen by Moscow as a further encroachment on its traditional sphere of influence. From the Russian perspective, NATO's growth is not just a political maneuver, but a direct threat to its national security. Russian leaders have repeatedly expressed concerns that NATO forces could one day be stationed right on their borders, undermining their ability to defend themselves and maintain regional influence. On the other hand, Western leaders argue that NATO's expansion is purely defensive. They claim it is meant to promote stability, democracy, and security in a region that has experienced significant turmoil and conflict. For many Eastern European countries, joining NATO is seen as a way to protect themselves from potential aggression and to solidify their place within the Western community. However, events such as the 2008 conflict in Georgia and the 2014 crisis in Ukraine have dramatically intensified the situation. These conflicts highlighted the deep divisions between Russia and the West, with each side accusing the other of interference and aggression. The annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014 in particular marked a turning point, leading to a sharp deterioration in relations and a new era of confrontation. In response to these developments, NATO has significantly increased its military presence in Eastern Europe. This includes regular military exercises, the deployment of troops, and the establishment of new bases in countries like Poland and the Baltic states. These actions are intended to reassure NATO members and deter any potential aggression, but they have also fueled Russian fears of encirclement and provocation. As a result, both sides now see themselves as merely reacting to the other's provocations. The United States and its allies argue that their actions are necessary responses to Russian aggression, while Russia insists it is defending itself against Western encroachment. This mutual suspicion and blame create a dangerous feedback loop. This ongoing cycle of mistrust and military buildup is known as a security dilemma. Each side's efforts to increase its own security are perceived as threats by the other, leading to further escalation and tension. As long as this dynamic continues, the risk of misunderstanding and conflict remains high, making the search for lasting peace and stability in Eastern Europe an ongoing challenge. For locals near the Poland-Ukraine border, geopolitical tension is a daily reality. The military presence disrupts their communities and creates anxiety. Roads are shared with military vehicles, and the noise is constant. While some see the troops as protectors, living in a militarized zone is challenging. The hope is for a return to normalcy, free from the shadow of conflict. The deployment has sparked global reactions. The US emphasizes deterrence, not conflict, urging Russia to de-escalate. Moscow condemns the move as provocative, increasing military dangers. European leaders call for restraint and dialogue. Eastern European leaders welcome the US troops as a security guarantee. The situation highlights deep divisions on managing security with Russia. With troops facing off, the future is uncertain. An accident could trigger unintended conflict. Diplomacy could bring both sides back to the table. A prolonged stalemate could lead to a new Cold War. The most dangerous outcome is direct confrontation. Avoiding this nightmare scenario is the goal of diplomats and military planners. The Poland-Ukraine border is a symbol of global insecurity. The troop deployment is a response to long-standing tensions. For locals, it's a source of anxiety. For leaders, a test of diplomacy. The best-case scenario is de-escalation and dialogue. The worst case is a conflict with global repercussions. The world watches, hoping for peace over confrontation.